My name's John Walker, and I work as a therapist. I work with a variety of people, men and women. I work with women recovering from sexual exploitation. And I also do educational work with men who have been arrested for approaching women in pain for sex. And so I've had the opportunity to talk with hundreds of men who have participated in the sex industry in that fashion, and learned a lot from listening to them. Yeah. So as to why men buy sex, I think there's fundamentally three reasons. One is the difficulty that some men have in forming stable, caring, intimate relationships. Secondly, the addictive cycle of becoming involved in paying for sex. And thirdly, a tendency in our culture for certain men to objectify and commodify women and their bodies. So I think those are the three primary reasons. That's what I've observed, and that's what I've also read in the research. Men who have difficulty in forming stable, caring relationships, if they have a succession of unsatisfactory or failed relationships, I think many men start to give up on themselves and on the possibility that they can have that in their life. And of course that's difficult and painful and lonely. And a certain number of those men do turn to pain for sex as a substitute for genuine intimacy. And there's many venues where men can do that. And I think that once men start down that path, it becomes a difficult one to extract themselves from. Men who start paying for sex don't feel good about having done that for the most part. They feel embarrassment, they feel shame, they feel that what would want to be with me if I am this kind of man. And I think it tends to isolate them more and more into that type of activity. A certain number of men are very defensive and feel entitled, to that behavior, to having access to a woman's body for money. Absolutely. I think it's quite a mixed group of men. There are men like that. There are also men who know that they shouldn't be doing it and are fundamentally embarrassed about it. So it's a mixed group of men. On one extreme you have men who are very aggressive and violent and extremely dangerous to women who are selling their bodies for sex. And then there's other men at the other end of the continuum who are actually looking more for emotional companionship and may not even be involved in a sexual exchange with the woman. So I think there's a broad range of men that participate in this behavior. An important cycle at work with men who are involved in paying for sex, and it involves the actual activity, the pursuing, the finding a woman that they're going to pay money for sex with, and that is sort of the exciting, arousing part of the cycle. Men that I've talked to report to me that after they've done that, they then have a big letdown. They feel a certain amount of regret, embarrassment, shame, loneliness, and they often they report to me that they often then say, well, I'm not going to do that again because of how poorly I feel afterwards. But unless they have a meaningful alternative, like a relationship that they can turn to that satisfies their needs, their only option is to kind of withdraw into loneliness and depression. And if there isn't another avenue available to them, eventually their loneliness and depression and sometimes anxiety will build, and they're likely then to re-enter that whole cycle, right, of beginning to think about pursuing pain for sex again, rationalizing it to themselves, a building level of desire and loneliness and desire for that contact, and then the whole cycle begins once again. Sexual activity, whether it's with somebody that you love and care about, or whether it's with a woman that you're paying for sex, It triggers a number of substances in the brain that tend to reinforce the behavior. There's a lot of feel-good chemicals that the brain and the body release when you are aroused, and whatever you're focusing on at that moment becomes reinforced in your imagination and in your mind. And so men who get into the cycle of pain for sex get this positive reinforcement that this is what arouses them, this is what stimulates them, this is what satisfies them. And so there is that addictive positive reinforcement to the behavior, which makes it more difficult for men to withdraw from. And of course the third big factor is that in our culture there is a very strong current running through it of objectification and commodification of women and their bodies. Lots of services available for men. There are conventional counseling services, therapists who specialize in working with men, working on relationships, working on issues of loneliness and shame. And there are the peer support groups modeled on Alcoholics Anonymous that are available in every city. And these are men just like yourself who have struggled with these same issues and have found mutual support to be very beneficial. And there are also more specialized psychoeducational groups that are available perhaps through this, here in Edmonton, City of Edmonton services, mental health services. So there's lots of options available. The key is to break out of isolation and ask for help and locate what is available in your community.